hold on to your handcuffs because we've got some breaking news.
A crooked cop is caught in the act.
A police officer sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Sure to ruffle some feathers. 10 police officers who thought they were above the law have finally been brought to justice and sentenced to a lifetime behind bars. These crooked cops have been abusing their power and pulling all sorts of dirty tricks, but it looks like the jig is up. So if you're a fan of sweet, sweet justice being served to those who deserve it most, buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. Number 10. Marco Burke. A former Middle Tennessee State University police officer has been caught red-handed in a web of corruption, thanks to none other than his own body camera. Poetic justice right there. It's like something straight out of a movie, but even better because it's real life. It all started when Police Chief Buddy Peaster got wind of Officer Marco Burke's shady behavior, suspecting that Burke had stolen an AR-15 from the MTSU police locker. Peaster hatched a plan to catch him in the act, and boy, did it work like a charm. In what Peaster called an integrity test, Burke was sent alone to investigate an abandoned vehicle, but little did he know, he was walking right into a trap. And to make matters worse, or funnier, depending on how you look at it, Burke's own body cam caught him red-handed stealing pills and cold hard cash from the car. Talk about being your own worst enemy. Burke's attempt to cover his tracks was nothing short of comical. Moments after pocketing the loot, he reported back to dispatch with a nonchalant,
"Just the vehicle is unoccupied. That's it."
But little did he know, his every move was being watched and he was about to get caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And the icing on the cake? The hidden cameras set up by police for the sting showed Burke at the car from a distance, but it was his own body cam that did him in. What a rookie mistake! Did he really think he could just steal from a bait car and get away with it? In the end, Burke got what was coming to him. He pleaded guilty to 3 felonies and was convicted of tampering with evidence. And let's not forget about the missing AR-15, the one that Burke denied ever taking, yet was never charged for. We can only hope that justice will be served in that regard as well. The moral of the story? If you're going to be a crooked cop, at least have the sense to turn off your own body cam, or better yet, just don't do it at all. It's not worth the risk, and it's definitely not worth the humiliation of being caught on camera like a bumbling fool. Number 9. Wayne Jenkins. Seems like we've got ourselves a sobbing sergeant on our hands. Wayne Earl Jenkins, the former leader of Baltimore's Gun Trace Task Force, was sentenced to 25 years in the slammer for his participation in a corruption scandal that prosecutors called breathtaking. And let us tell you, they weren't talking in an Angelina Jolie way. They were literally dumbfounded. This guy had it all: the power, the authority, the black masks, the pry bars, and the machetes. And what did he do with it? Well, according to the prosecutors, he used his position to rob innocent people, plant drugs on them, and even sell the drugs he stole from other suspects. And that's not all. He fabricated evidence, produced fake videos, and even caused a fatal car crash and tried to cover it up by planting heroin on the victim. Talk about a committed, sophisticated, devious person. But let's not forget about the other officers in his elite squad. They were all indicted, except for one. Detective Maurice Ward, Evodio Hendricks, Mahmudo Gondo, and Jamel Rayam all pleaded guilty to their crimes, which included robbery, racketeering, and overtime fraud. And to top it all off, their corruption affected 1,700 criminal cases. That's a lot of innocent people who were potentially wrongly convicted. But back to Jenkins. He walked into court wearing a maroon prison uniform and sobbed as he apologized to the citizens of Baltimore. And who can blame him? He perverted the criminal justice system and tarnished the badge he wore with such pride. He even begged the judge for the opportunity to get out in time to be a grandfather. Sorry, buddy, but we don't think they let convicted felons have unsupervised visits with their grandkids. Ultimately, Judge Blake sentenced him to 25 years in prison, which isn't too shabby considering prosecutors were pushing for the maximum of 30 years. And hey, At least he pleaded guilty and cooperated with the prosecutors to some extent. But let's be real, this was a great abuse of the public trust, and it strikes at the foundation of our entire criminal justice system. So, Jenkins, enjoy your time in the slammer, and don't drop the soap. Number 8. Zachary Wester. It's time to talk about former Jackson County Sheriff's Deputy, Zachary Wester, aka the man who really wanted to meet his monthly quota for drug busts. Mr. Wester, a mere 28 years old, has been sentenced to 12.5 years in state prison for planting drugs on multiple motorists. That's right, he wanted to be the star of the show and take down the, quote, bad guys. But he forgot that he was not Judge Dredd. According to reports, this former patrol duty for JCSO decided to plant meth and drug paraphernalia in the vehicles of innocent motorists during traffic stops. But wait, there's more. He even falsified court records, leading to the conviction of people who were innocent. How thoughtful of him to go the extra mile. Despite facing 67 charges, he was cleared of most after a week-long trial in the state's 14th Judicial Circuit. Come on, give the guy a break. He was just trying to be a hero, right? Now, here's the cherry on top. He pleaded not guilty and said he did not put the narcotics there. How do you explain that, Mr. Wester? Did the drugs magically appear in their cars? Or were they planted by the Tooth Fairy? Prosecutor Tom Williams asked that Wester be sentenced to 15 years in prison, but he only got 12.5 years. Oh, boo-hoo. He'll only have to spend a measly decade behind bars. That'll give him enough time to work on his hobbies, like knitting or learning how to play the harmonica. In all seriousness, Wester's actions were a complete breach of the public's trust. He had a responsibility to protect and serve, but instead, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Now, he's paying the price, and justice has been served. Number 7. Michael Dautro. Oh, we think we have a winner here. One who was best at being the worst. Former Edison police officer Michael Dautro has been sentenced to 20 years in state prison for setting fire to the home of a superior officer while the police captain and his family were inside asleep. And get this, he scratched his neck and forehead during his sentencing, but didn't even bother to apologize or show any remorse. It's like Dautro took lessons from the worst of the worst when it comes to criminal behavior. Not only did he attempt to murder a fellow officer, but he also committed aggravated arson, official misconduct, and even tampered with evidence. And let's not forget the conspiracy to retaliate, because why not add a cherry on top of this Sunday of crimes? But wait, there's more. Dautro's sentence was negotiated under a plea agreement, which means he actually got off a little lighter than he could have. He'll still be serving a hefty 17 years before he even becomes eligible for parole though, so we're not shedding any tears for him. And speaking of tears, Dautro's wife Alicia had quite the outburst in the courtroom. She called her husband a, quote, manipulative monster, and was almost removed by a sheriff's officer for causing a disturbance. It's a tough situation to be in, but he got what he deserved. In the end, Dautro's lack of remorse speaks volumes about the kind of person he is. He didn't even bother to apologize to the family he terrorized or the officers who lost their jobs because of him. It's almost like he thinks he's above the law or something. But hey, at least he'll have plenty of time in prison to reflect on his poor life choices. Number 6. William Vasquez Baez. Gather round and let us tell you a tale of corruptions, drugs, and betrayal. A story so wild, you'd think it was taken straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Enter William Vasquez Baez, a former member of the Puerto Rico Police Department who has just been sentenced to 30 years in the slammer by U.S. District Judge Jesse M. Furman. And let us tell you, he deserved every second of it. This man, who was supposed to serve and protect the citizens of Puerto Rico, instead decided to cozy up to a drug trafficking organization known as La ONU. Yep, you heard us right. He was in cahoots with the very people he was supposed to bring to justice. For a measly salary, Vasquez Baez provided these drug lords with narcotics and intelligence, including information obtained from the police narcotics unit. But wait, there's more. Members of La ONU would also contact Vasquez-Baez when transporting large quantities of cocaine within the San Juan area to ensure the shipment avoided areas of police activity. Who needs a GPS when you've got a crooked cop on speed dial, right? And that's not even the worst part. This man assisted La ONU in acts of violence, folks. Acts of violence. He helped these drug lords protect their territory and trade through numerous acts of violence, including the massacre of citizens he had sworn to protect. But justice has been served. Vasquez-Baez has been sentenced to 30 years in prison for his horrific crimes. And let that be a lesson to all those out there who think they can get away with playing both sides. Your actions have consequences, and the law will catch up to you eventually. So let this be a warning to all those corrupt cops out there. And to William Vasquez-Baez, well, let's just say he won't be corrupting anyone from behind bars. Before we go on, like this video, smash that subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face while you're sleeping. It's time for today's subscriber pick. One of our subscribers left us with this image, with a title of 89 years and an annoyingly neon green shirt man. Alright, yes, that's a filter. But what's happening with his collar? Did the authorities find something that was the nail in the coffin for him? But that's where you come in. Can you help us solve this mystery? Can you tell what was going on with the collar? And why is this person getting slammed for 89 years? The answers await. Remember to comment down below with the hashtag #subscriberpick and let us know what you think. Now, on to the next topic. Number 5. Wayne Couzens. The shocking and disturbing case of Wayne Couzens, the former London police officer who kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered Sarah Everard, has taken yet another sinister turn. Couzens, who is already serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for his heinous crimes, has been sentenced to an additional 19 months for indecent exposure incidents. Yes, you heard that right. This monster who preyed on women while in uniform was also exposing himself to innocent bystanders. And to make matters worse, he was joking about sexual assault with other police officers in a WhatsApp group. What kind of sick and twisted world are we living in where the very people who are supposed to protect us are committing these heinous crimes? But it doesn't stop there. Couzens was also accused of stepping into the path of a female cyclist and exposed himself in a woodland area of Kent in November of 2020. In February 2021, he exposed himself to staffers at a fast food restaurant while picking up food in his car. The fact that this man was able to carry out these despicable acts while on duty and in uniform is beyond comprehension. The entire situation has shaken the confidence of the public in the Met Police Force, with many calling for a root and branch inquiry into its operations and processes for dealing with complaints. It's clear that there are deep-rooted issues within the force that need to be addressed, and the punishment handed down to Couzens is just the tip of the iceberg. Number 4. Derrick Stafford. Now, we have Derrick Stafford, whose crimes cannot be accounted for. Stafford and another deputy, Marshall, were engaged in a 2-mile car chase of an innocent father and son for reasons unknown to this day. What's worse, they opened fire. Their actions resulted in the death of a 6-year-old boy with autism, Jeremy Martis, who was shot 5 times in the head and chest. To make matters worse, was that he feared the boy's father, Christopher Few, would reverse and run over his colleague. But let's be real. These officers were at a safe distance from the car and weren't in any danger. It's just a pathetic attempt at trying to cover up his heinous crime. And let's not forget about Few, who was wounded in the process. He even stuck his hand out of the window as a sign of surrender, but bullets continued to rain down on him. It's a miracle he even survived. But justice won over crimes. Stafford has been sentenced to 40 years without parole for his despicable act of manslaughter and an additional 15 years for the attempted manslaughter of Few. Let's hope this serves as a warning to any law enforcement officer who thinks they are above the law. It's heartbreaking that it took the death of an innocent child for justice to be awakened. But let's take solace in the fact that Stafford will be behind bars for the rest of his life. This is a message to all those who abuse their power and betray the trust of the public. You will be caught and you will pay the price for your actions. Number 3. Joseph Miedzanowski. It turns out that even infamous Scarface would be shaking in his boots at the audacity of former Chicago police officer Joseph Miedzanowski. This dastardly individual has been accused of framing 2 gang members for a 1997 murder as an act of revenge. The brothers, Juan and Rosendo Hernandez, were falsely accused of stealing marijuana from a dealer who worked for Miedzanowski. It seems that this corrupt cop was involved in all sorts of nefarious activities, including running a drug trafficking and protection racket in the 1990s. His accomplice, Fred Rock, testified against him 2 decades ago when Miedzanowski was on trial for using his badge to run a Miami to Chicago drug ring. Rock even helped Miedzanowski rob rival dealers and sell their drugs. The Hernandez brothers have been hoping to win a new trial for the 1997 killing of Jorge Gonzalez in Belmont Cragen, since Miedzanowski's partner in crime, Reynaldo Guevara, retired from the CPD in 2005. More than 20 men have overturned their convictions based on allegations of misconduct against them. It's clear that this corrupt cop duo has ruined many lives. Assistant State's Attorney Carol Rogala argues that the allegations of abuse in the Hernandez's case don't fit the pattern of physical beatings of suspects and threats against witnesses that have been alleged in other cases. But the Hernandez's lawyers have argued that Guevara put bogus information in police reports to discredit the brothers' alibis. Who knows who's telling the truth? It's important to remember that the Hernandez brothers have denied involvement in the murder since they turned themselves into police shortly after the shooting. However, eyewitness Daniel Violante has recanted his testimony identifying the Hernandezes as the shooters. It seems that this case is far from straightforward. In any case, it's clear that Miedzanowski deserves his life sentence. Let's hope that justice will be served and that the Hernandez brothers will be exonerated. The corruption of these officers is truly shocking, and it's a testament to the hard work of the justice system that they have been exposed. Let's hope that this kind of corruption will never happen again. Number 2. Daniel HOLTZCLAW. Now, we have a real-life monster on our hands. Daniel HOLTZCLAW, the ex-Oklahoma City officer, has been sentenced to a whopping 263 years in prison for his heinous crimes against African American women. That's right, you heard that correctly. 263 years. HOLTZCLAW preyed on women in one of Oklahoma City's poorest neighborhoods. Selecting his victims based on their criminal histories, he assumed that their records would make it hard for them to make claims against him. And boy, was he right. HOLTZCLAW subjected these poor women to assaults and crimes that escalated to unspeakable levels. We mean, they were so horrible, you would be horrified to think that this man has a badge to begin with. The 13 victims who testified against him painted a picture of a monster with a badge, using his powers and authority to satisfy his depraved desires. But hold on, it gets worse. HOLTZCLAW's own father is a police lieutenant on another force. 2 of the victims had the courage to speak out on CNN, sharing their stories of being forced to perform sexual acts by a serial rapist who was supposed to protect and serve. It's no wonder that the State Pardon and Parole Board denied his chance at parole. Can you imagine this guy being released back into society? During the trial, prosecutors presented evidence of skin cells found inside and outside HOLTZCLAW's pants, around the zipper area. This guy was so careless that he left evidence all over himself, and the match ultimately came from a then 17-year-old girl who testified that she was attacked by the former officer outside her mother's home. Well, justice triumphed, and HOLTZCLAW will be behind bars for the rest of his natural life. Let's hope that this sends a message to other corrupt cops out there that their days of preying on innocent people are numbered. Number 1. Roy Oliver. Roy Oliver is a man without motive, but with all homicidal tendencies. The man responsible for the death of Jordan Edwards has been given a 15-year prison sentence for murder, and his request for a new trial has been denied. What happened exactly? Well, Oliver and his fellow officers were responding to a complaint about a party when they heard gunshots in the area. Sounds like a wild night, right? But things took a dark turn when Oliver decided to open fire on a car that was trying to leave the scene. He claimed he was about to hit another officer, but that officer testified that his life was never in danger. And what happened next? Jordan Edwards, a mere 15-year-old boy, was hit and killed. Can you imagine the horror his family must have felt? The pain and heartbreak they must have endured? It's a tragedy that should never have happened. But justice prevailed, and Oliver was convicted in 2018. It was a landmark ruling, as police officers are rarely indicted, let alone convicted of murder. In non-duty shootings, this was a victory for all those who have been affected by police brutality and excessive force. Oliver has been in prison for over 2 years now, and he won't be eligible for parole until 2026. That's plenty of time to think about his actions and the consequences they had. Let's hope he learns from his mistakes and that justice continues to prevail for those affected by police violence. Well, there you have it. 10 most corrupt police officers caught red-handed for their crimes and getting a sentence that they deserved. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. We'll see you next time.